The great chamber on Centauri Prime buzzed with voices from 12 different species. Each representative sat in their special chair, designed for their unique body type. The room was massive, with a dome ceiling that showed the stars above. In the center stood a single human woman named Elena Vasquez. Elena wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's symbol on her shoulder. She looked calm, but her hands were slightly tense at her sides. Around her, alien beings whispered and pointed. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others glowed with soft light. A few looked like giant insects with clicking sounds coming from their mouths. The Zephyrian Chancellor rose from its crystal chair. The being looked like a walking diamond. And, when it spoke, the voice sounded like musical wind chimes. "Ambassador Vasquez," the Chancellor said, "humanity stands accused of serious crimes against galactic law." Elena nodded but said nothing. She had heard these accusations many times in the past weeks. The Council had been building this case against her people for months. "First," the Chancellor continued, "humans have expanded too quickly through the galaxy. You have built colonies on over 300 worlds without proper Council permission. This breaks the sacred protocols that have kept peace for thousands of years." A murmur went through the chamber. The Delari representative, who looked like a blue fish person, spoke up. "Humans make treaties with primitive species. They give them technology that changes their societies too fast. This is dangerous and wrong." The Vex delegate, a large insect with multiple eyes, clicked its mouthparts loudly. "Humans are too emotional. They make decisions based on feelings instead of logic. This creates chaos wherever they go." Elena listened as more accusations came. The energy being called a luminar floated above its chair, pulsing with angry red light. Humans spread their biological contamination everywhere. They breathe oxygen and leave their germs on clean worlds. One by one, the species that had once asked humans for help now spoke against them. The Sauros, reptile-like beings with green scales, complained about human methods being too different from Council ways. The mycoids, fungal creatures that communicated through chemical signals, said humans were impossible to understand. Elena remembered when the Sauros had begged for human help to save their dying colonies. She remembered the mycoids asking for human doctors when a plague hit their homeworld. But now, in this chamber, none of that seemed to matter. The Chancellor's voice rang out again. "The Council has decided. Humanity must accept these terms immediately. First, all human colonies built without Council permission must be given to Council control. Second, humans must stop all expansion activities. Third, all humans must undergo genetic changes to reduce their aggressive behavior. Fourth, humanity accepts permanent junior status in the Galactic Council. No voting rights, no leadership positions, no independent action." The chamber fell silent. Elena could hear her own heartbeat. She had expected this, but hearing it spoken aloud still hit her like a physical blow. They wanted to change what made humans human. They wanted to make her people into something else. Furthermore, the Chancellor added, all human military forces must be disbanded. Human technology sharing with non-Council species must stop immediately. Any human caught violating these rules will face exile from civilized space. Elena looked around the chamber. These beings had once called humans their friends. When the Crystal Plague threatened to destroy Zephyrian cities, humans had worked day and night to find a cure. When Delari underwater cities started flooding, human engineers had built new pump systems for free. When the Vex needed help with their computer networks, human programmers had fixed their problems without asking for payment. But now, fear had taken over. Fear of human success, human growth, human difference. The Chancellor spoke one final time. "Ambassador Vasquez, you have one standard day to accept these terms. If humanity refuses, all treaties will end. All humans will be ordered to leave Council space. All human trade will stop. You will be alone in the galaxy." Elena stood quietly for a long moment. She thought about her home on Earth, about the billions of humans living their lives among the stars. She thought about the human colonies where families had built new homes on distant worlds. She thought about the human scientists, doctors, engineers, and teachers working throughout the galaxy. Then she spoke, and her voice was clear and steady. The Galactic Council has made its position very clear. You see humanity as a problem to be solved, rather than partners to work with. You want to change who we are because you fear what we might become. She paused and looked directly at each representative. I have heard your demands. I understand them completely, and speaking for all humanity, I give you our answer. The chamber held its breath. Humanity respectfully declines your offer. Shocked voices erupted from every direction. The Chancellor's crystal body flashed bright with anger. You cannot refuse a council ultimatum. No species has ever been asked to stop being themselves as the price of membership. Elena interrupted. You want us to give up our colonies, our military, our right to help others, and even our basic nature. That's not membership. That's slavery. She activated her communication device, and her image began to flicker as the hologram prepared to shut down. Therefore, effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all galactic institutions, treaties, and agreements. We are leaving council space. We are going home. The Chancellor stood up so quickly that crystal fragments fell to the floor. If you leave, you can never come back. The galaxy will be closed to humanity forever. Elena smiled sadly. Chancellor, you just told us we weren't welcome here anyway. All we're doing is accepting your judgment. Her voice carried across the silent chamber. You wanted us gone. Congratulations. You got your wish. As her holographic form began to fade, Elena spoke her final words to the Galactic Council. When you remember the good things humans did, remember this moment. Remember that you chose fear over friendship. Remember that you decided we were too dangerous to exist as we are. The hologram disappeared, leaving an empty space in the center of the chamber. For a long moment, no one spoke. The weight of what had just happened slowly settled over the assembled representatives. The Herbans delegate, a plant-like being with a gentle voice, whispered, "What have we done?" But it was too late. Across the galaxy, human communication networks lit up with a single message. Come home. All humans, come home now. The great human exodus was about to begin, and the Galactic Council had no idea what they had just lost. They thought they were getting rid of a problem species. Instead, they had just removed the foundation that held their entire civilization together. In the days that followed, they would learn the true cost of their decision. They would discover what the galaxy looked like without human hands to build, human minds to solve problems, and human hearts to care about others. But for now, they sat in their great chamber, convinced they had saved galactic civilization from the dangerous humans. They had no idea they had just destroyed it. The message reached every human settlement within hours, from the busy trade stations near Council space to the distant mining colonies on the galaxy's edge. Humans received the same simple order: pack up and come home. Captain Sarah Chen read the message on her cargo ship's communication screen. She was carrying medical supplies to a Soros colony that had been hit by a virus outbreak. Her crew looked at her with confused faces. "Captain, what does this mean?" asked her engineer, a young man named Marcus. Sarah looked at the supplies in her cargo hold. Medicines that could save thousands of Soros lives. Food that would feed their children. Water purification tablets that would keep their cities clean. "It means we're going home, Marcus. Right now. But the Soros are depending on us. They'll die without these supplies." Sarah's heart ached, but she knew the rules. When humanity spoke with one voice, everyone listened. "Send the supplies to the nearest council station. Tell them to deliver everything to the Soros colony. We're done here." The same scene played out across the galaxy. Human doctors left their patients in alien hospitals. Human teachers walked out of schools where they had been teaching young aliens about the universe. Human engineers stopped working on the projects that kept cities running. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, Dr. James Rodriguez supervised the shutdown of the atmospheric processing plant. The Soros colony leader, a large reptile named Governor Thex, watched with growing fear. "Dr. Rodriguez, you cannot leave now," Thex pleaded. "The atmospheric processors are breaking down. Without them, our cities will become unlivable in weeks." James felt terrible, but he had his orders. "Governor, we trained your people to operate these machines. The instruction manuals are in your computer systems. Everything you need to know is there. But we never learned the advanced repair techniques. What if something goes wrong that's not in the manuals? James paused in his packing. Then you'll have to figure it out yourselves. Or ask the council for help. We're not allowed to interfere anymore. As the last human transport lifted off from Kepler 442b, Governor Thex watched the sky with dread. His people had built their entire colony around human technology they didn't fully understand. Now they were alone. In the Vega system, the communication network started failing within days of the human departure. The mycoids had relied on human-built quantum communication relays to stay in touch with their colonies. The fungal beings could maintain the basic systems, but when problems developed, they had no idea how to fix them. Commander Sporebright, leader of the mycoid communication division, stared at banks of dead equipment. The humans had built these systems using technology that was simple for humans, but incredibly complex for everyone else. Why did they make everything so complicated? Asked his assistant. They didn't, Sporebright replied sadly. It was simple for them. We just never bothered to really learn how it worked. We assumed they would always be here to fix things. On Proxima Centauri 7th, the agricultural crisis began immediately. The Herbans had been growing food using human-designed soil enhancement systems. These machines could make any planet's dirt rich enough to grow crops. But now the systems were showing error messages no one could understand. Elder Root Deep, the oldest Herban on the planet, examined the silent machines. Our harvest will be only 10% of normal if these don't work, she told her council. We'll have to import food from other worlds. But we used to export food to other worlds, pointed out another elder. We fed 12 different colonies with our surplus crops. That was when the human machines worked perfectly. Now we'll be lucky to feed ourselves. The human departure created a ripple effect that spread through the galaxy like a virus. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for decades suddenly became chaotic. Human ships had been carrying cargo between different species, often for free as part of friendship agreements. Without them, alien species had to find new ways to move goods across space. The Plutocratic Trade Federation discovered that humans had been their biggest customers for luxury goods. 17 different categories of expensive items had been purchased mainly by human colonies. With humans gone, the market for these goods collapsed overnight. Federation Chairman Gold Counter stared at the financial reports. Humans bought 60% of our art, 40% of our rare metals, and 90% of our exotic foods. Without them, our economy will crash. His assistant, a worried-looking being with multiple arms, waved the reports frantically. It's worse than that, sir. Humans also provided free shipping for 30% of our trade routes. They said it helped build friendship between species. Now we'll have to pay other species to ship our goods, and it will cost 5 times more. The military situation was even more serious. Human defense fleets had been protecting dozens of worlds under mutual defense agreements. These weren't conquer and control arrangements. Humans simply promised to help if anyone was attacked, asking only for friendship in return. Now those protection fleets were gone. Admiral Starwing of the Delary Defense Force watched human warships jump into hyperspace, heading for Earth. His underwater cities had been protected by human space stations for 50 years. The stations were still there, but they were shutting down one by one. Admiral, what if the pirates come back? Asked his second-in-command. Our cities are defenseless without the human shields. Then we fight with our own ships, Starwing replied. But both officers knew the truth. Delary ships were built for underwater combat, not space battles. Without human protection, their colonies were helpless. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, head of the Human Colonial Administration, held the final press conference as the last human ships left Council space. She stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Tokyo, looking out at the stars they were leaving behind. People of the galaxy, she said into the communication system, for 200 years, humans have been proud to call you our friends. We built things for you, fixed things for you, protected you, healed you, and taught your children. We did this because we believed in a galaxy where different species could work together. She paused and sadness filled her voice. Today, the Galactic Council decided that human friendship was too dangerous to allow. They asked us to stop being human as the price of staying in their galaxy. We cannot accept that price. Behind her, the last human ships formed up in a long convoy heading toward Earth. Cargo vessels, passenger ships, military cruisers, research vessels, hospital ships, an entire civilization in motion. We came to the galaxy offering our hands in friendship, Dr. Tanaka continued. We built bridges between species. We fixed problems. We helped people live better lives. Since the Council believes these things are dangerous, we're taking our help with us. She looked directly into the camera. To our alien friends who spoke against the Council's decision, we're sorry we have to leave you. To those who supported removing us from the galaxy, you're about to learn what the galaxy looks like without human hands to help. The transmission ended. The last human ship jumped to hyperspace. For the first time in 2 centuries, humans were completely gone from Council space. The galaxy had never been so quiet, and in that quiet, the first problems were already beginning. 3 weeks after the humans left, the galaxy started breaking down. It began with small things. Ships getting lost because navigation beacons weren't working properly. Trade routes taking longer because the calculations were wrong. Communication delays because relay stations needed maintenance that no one knew how to do. Captain Zeth 9 of the Vex trading fleet noticed it first. His ship's navigation computer kept giving him incorrect jump coordinates. These beacons are supposed to update automatically, he told his crew. Why are they sending us the wrong information? His engineer, a younger Vex with bright green eyes, checked the ship's systems. Captain, the beacons are working fine, but they're not getting updates from the central navigation network. The network has been slowly drifting off course for weeks. Who maintains the central network? The engineer's antennae drooped. According to the records, humans did. They recalibrated it every few days to account for stellar drift and gravity changes. Captain Zeth 9 felt a cold feeling in his stomach. If the navigation network was breaking down, ships could get lost in hyperspace. Some might never find their way home. On the military side, things were getting worse fast. The Galactic Defense Network was supposed to be run by the Council's military committee. But when patrol fleets tried to activate their advanced systems, everything started going wrong. Admiral Strongclaw of the Soros Defense Force watched his flagship's main fusion reactor overheat for the 3rd time that week. Chief Engineer, what's wrong with this reactor? It was working perfectly a month ago. Chief Engineer Scalebright looked at the readouts with confusion. Sir, the reactor is running too hot. The efficiency cores that humans installed are malfunctioning. Can't we just remove the human parts? No, sir. The whole reactor was redesigned around human efficiency technology. Without those cores, we'll lose 70% of our power output. We won't have enough energy to run shields and weapons at the same time. The same problems appeared throughout the defense fleet. Human-designed shield generators were failing. Human-improved weapon systems were overloading. Human-maintained life support systems were breaking down. But the real disaster was happening on the planets. Chancellor Zix stood in the Emergency Command Center on Centauri Prime, staring at weather reports that made no sense. The planet's weather control system, which had kept their cities safe from storms for centuries, was predicting impossible things. The system says we're going to have a hurricane with frozen rain falling upward, Zix said to the chief meteorologist. How is that possible? The meteorologist, a nervous Zephyrian named Windsong, flickered with worried colors. Chancellor, our weather control system depends on millions of calculations every day. Humans wrote the prediction software that tells us where storms will go and how strong they'll be. Can't we run the system without their software? We tried. The old system can control the weather, but it doesn't know what weather to create. It needs the prediction software to make good decisions. Without it, we're essentially guessing. 3 days later, Centauri Prime experienced its first natural storm in 800 years. The cities, built assuming weather would always be controlled, flooded within hours. Buildings collapsed because they weren't designed to handle real wind and rain. The economic collapse came next. Chairman Goldcounter of the Plutocratic Trade Federation stared at market reports that showed his worst nightmares coming true. How bad is it? He asked his advisors. Sir, galactic trade volume has dropped by 40% in 3 weeks. The human colonies were buying huge amounts of goods from everyone. Without them, thousands of companies are going bankrupt. What about shipping? Can't we hire other species to transport goods? His chief logistics officer, a being with multiple tentacles covered in stress marks, waved several arms frantically. Sir, humans were providing free shipping for 30% of all galactic trade. They said it was their contribution to galactic friendship. Now we have to pay market rates and shipping costs have increased by 500%. Goldcounter felt sick. Are you telling me that humans were subsidizing galactic trade without telling anyone? It appears so, sir. They never called it a subsidy. They just offered to carry cargo for free when their ships had extra space. But they always seemed to have extra space when someone needed it. Meanwhile, the Vex had been doing their own analysis of the crisis. Their species was famous for being excellent at understanding complex systems. What they discovered made everything worse. Vex Prime Analyst Think Deep presented her report to the emergency council session. The insect-like being's voice carried no emotion, but her words hit the council like a bomb. Council members, we have completed our analysis of the current crisis. The situation is far worse than anyone realized. She activated a holographic display showing the galaxy with thousands of connection lines. Humans operated 23% of all interstellar shipping. They maintained 31% of all planetary life support systems. They provided critical personnel for 67% of all major scientific research projects. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. Think Deep continued without stopping. More importantly, we have discovered that humans were not expanding aggressively as we claimed. Our analysis shows 847 instances where council member species specifically requested human assistance. In every case, humans provided help freely without asking for political control or special privileges. The holographic display showed a web of connections between human colonies and alien worlds. Each line represented help given freely: medical aid, engineering support, food shipments, military protection, technological assistance. The human expansion pattern was not random conquest, Think Deep explained. They were building supply lines and support networks to help as many species as possible. Every human colony was positioned to provide aid to multiple alien worlds in case of emergency. Chancellor Zix's crystal body dimmed with shock. Are you saying humans were preparing to help us deal with crises we didn't even know were coming? Correct. Human colony placement, military positioning, and resource allocation all support this conclusion. They were building a galaxy-wide emergency response network, disguised as normal expansion. The council chamber fell silent. They had accused humans of aggressive expansion when humans were actually building infrastructure to save alien lives. Think Deep delivered her final, devastating conclusion. Council members, we did not remove a dangerous species from our galaxy. We removed our maintenance and emergency response system. We are now experiencing the collapse of systems we never knew humans were maintaining. The silence stretched on. Finally, the Herban representative Elder Root Deep spoke in a whisper. How long do we have before complete system failure? Think Deep's antennae twitched. Based on current breakdown rates, critical systems will begin failing across the galaxy within 6 months. Complete civilizational collapse is projected within 2 years. Can we fix the problems ourselves? Unlikely. Human solutions were integrated into our infrastructure so thoroughly that removing them would require rebuilding everything from the beginning. That would take decades we don't have. The council members looked at each other with growing horror. They had thought they were saving galactic civilization from dangerous humans. Instead, they had just guaranteed its destruction. Outside the council chamber across the galaxy, the breakdown continued. Ships were getting lost in space. Cities were going dark as power systems failed. Food production was dropping as agricultural systems broke down. Communication networks were going silent as relay stations stopped working. And somewhere in human space beyond the galaxy's edge, Elena Vasquez was reading the same reports. She felt no satisfaction at being proven right. She felt only sadness for the billions of aliens who were suffering because of their leaders' fear and pride. The Galactic Council had gotten exactly what they asked for, a galaxy without human interference. They were about to learn why that was the last thing they should have wanted. 6 months after the human departure, the Galactic Council was falling apart. Half the member species were dealing with their own survival crises and had stopped attending meetings. The other half spent their time blaming each other for the disaster. Governor Thex of the Soros mining colony sent his final message to the council before his communication system died completely. Day 173 without humans. Atmospheric processors have failed. We have maybe 2 weeks of breathable air left in our emergency reserves. Send help immediately. Similar messages were flooding in from across the galaxy. The Dalari underwater cities were slowly flooding as their human-built pressure systems broke down. The mycoid communication networks had gone completely silent, cutting off entire sectors from galactic civilization. The Herban agricultural worlds were facing mass starvation as crop yields continued to drop. But the worst crisis was medical. Dr. Crystal Song, head of the Healers Guild, stood before the emergency council session with reports that made everyone sick with fear. The Guild was the galaxy's premier medical organization, and they were failing catastrophically. Council members, Dr. Crystal Song said, her usually calm voice shaking with stress, "We are facing the worst medical crisis in galactic history. The situation is beyond our control." She activated a holographic display showing disease outbreaks across dozens of worlds. Red warning symbols flashed everywhere like a starfield of doom. Human doctors were working in our hospitals throughout Council space. We thought they were just regular medical staff. We were wrong. They were specialists in cross-species medicine, treating diseases that affect multiple species at once. The Vex representative, Think Deep, clicked her mandibles nervously. What does this mean for practical treatment? It means we're watching people die from diseases we thought were cured decades ago. The Soros virus that's killing thousands right now? Human doctors developed the treatment. The Delari gill rot that's spreading through their underwater cities? Humans created the cure. The mycoid spore sickness that's destroying their colonies? Human research found the prevention method. Chancellor Zix's crystal body flickered with desperate light. Surely our own doctors can recreate these treatments. Dr. Crystal Song's answer crushed their hopes. We've tried. Human medicine uses biological approaches that our species don't understand. They think differently about how bodies work. Their treatments often seem impossible to us, but they work perfectly. She showed them a specific example. The Soros virus treatment requires a drug that attacks the virus in 7 different ways at the same time. Our best scientists can't figure out how humans designed a molecule that does 7 things simultaneously. To us, it should be impossible. But it works. While the medical crisis worsened, Chancellor Zix made the decision that would define the Council's final desperate months. They would try to take back human technology by force. If humans won't help willingly, Zix announced to the Council's military committee, then we'll make them help. Prepare the fleet for an invasion of human space. Admiral Strongclaw of the Soros Defense Force felt obligated to point out the problems with this plan. Chancellor, our military systems are failing just like everything else. Half our ships can't maintain full power, and our weapons are overheating constantly. Then we'll use what works. Gather every functional ship in the galaxy. We outnumber the humans 50 to 1. The great invasion fleet assembled at the edge of human space, or tried to. Ships broke down on the way to the meeting point. Others got lost when their navigation systems failed. Some arrived with critical systems offline. What finally reached human territory was a sad collection of barely functional vessels, commanded by officers who weren't sure their weapons would fire when needed. They found the border to human space, protected by a wall of automated defense platforms. These weren't massive battle stations, just small, simple-looking satellites that floated quietly in space. Admiral Strongclaw examined the readings from his sensors. These human defense stations don't look very impressive. Our fleet should be able to break through easily. His tactical officer, a young Soros named Quickstrike, double-checked the sensor data. Sir, I'm reading some strange energy signatures from those platforms. They're using technology I don't recognize. Human technology is primitive compared to ours. Attack when ready. The Council fleet opened fire. The human defense platforms responded instantly. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations, assuming any academies survived the galactic collapse. The human defense platforms didn't just shoot back. They coordinated their response with a precision that seemed impossible. Every shot was perfectly aimed. Every movement was calculated to maximum effect. The platforms worked together like parts of a single massive weapon. Council ships found their weapons missing targets that should have been easy to hit. Their shields were being drained by attacks that came from multiple directions at once. Their sensors were being jammed by signals that appeared and disappeared in patterns too complex to track. In 15 minutes, the great invasion fleet was either destroyed or retreating. Not a single Council ship made it past the defense perimeter. Admiral Strongclaw, broadcasting from his damaged flagship, sent a message that would haunt the Council forever. They weren't just maintaining our systems. They were studying them. They know exactly how everything works and exactly how to defeat it. We never had a chance. The failed invasion broke the Council's spirit completely. If they couldn't take human technology by force, they had no options left except surrender. But even surrender was becoming impossible. Ambassador Keth of the Soros, one of the few council members who had opposed the original ultimatum, tried to establish communication with human space. Every message was returned with the same automated response. By order of the Galactic Council, humanity is not permitted to interfere in galactic affairs. Please direct all requests to the Council. They're using our own words against us, Keth reported to the emergency session. When we told them to leave, we also told them never to interfere again. Now they're following those orders exactly. Think Deep of the Vex presented the final analysis that confirmed everyone's worst fears. Council members, we have calculated the minimum time needed to rebuild our infrastructure without human assistance. The results are not encouraging. The holographic display showed reconstruction timelines measured in decades. Rebuilding our communication networks, 37 years. Repairing our defense systems, 52 years. Recreating our medical technology, 68 years. Restoring our agricultural systems, 43 years. By the time we could rebuild everything, Think Deep concluded, most of our species will be extinct from the current system failures. The chamber fell into despair. They had painted themselves into a corner with no way out. That's when Elder Root Deep of the Herbans spoke up. The plant-like being had been quiet throughout most of the crisis, but now her gentle voice carried clearly through the chamber. My friends, we have been thinking about this wrong. We keep trying to force humans to help us or trick them into helping us or replace their help with our own efforts. But there is another way. Chancellor Zix turned toward her. What are you suggesting, Elder? We could try asking nicely. The silence that followed was profound. In all their desperation, in all their planning and scheming and threatening, the idea of simply apologizing and asking for help had never occurred to the Council. You mean, admit we were wrong? Zix asked. I mean, admit the truth. We made a terrible mistake. Billions of people are suffering because of our pride. Maybe if we approach humans as equals instead of trying to control them, they might be willing to help. Think Deep's antennae twitched with what might have been hope. The psychological profile we built of humans suggests they have strong empathy responses. They might help people who are suffering even if those people had been cruel to them. For the first time in months, Chancellor Zix felt something other than despair. It was a tiny spark, but it was better than the darkness they'd been living in. Prepare a diplomatic mission, Zix ordered. Not a military fleet or a trade delegation or a demand for negotiation. A simple request for help, and this time we approached them as equals. The galaxy's last hope was about to test whether human compassion was stronger than human justice. 1 year after the humans left, the Galactic Council barely existed. What had once been a proud alliance of advanced civilizations was now a collection of desperate survivors trying to keep their species alive. Chancellor Zix stood in the same chamber where they had once condemned humanity. The great dome above showed stars that seemed dimmer now, though that was probably just Zix's imagination. Half the chairs in the chamber were empty. The mycoids had gone completely silent months ago. The Luminar had withdrawn to their energy realm to try to survive on stored power. Several other species were too busy with their own extinction crises to attend meetings. Honored representatives, Zix said to the few remaining council members, we have reached the end. Our analysis shows that without immediate help, at least 6 council species will be extinct within the year. The rest will follow soon after. The numbers were horrifying. 14 worlds were experiencing complete life support failure. The galactic economy had collapsed by 80%. Food production was down to emergency levels. The communication networks that held civilization together were failing faster than anyone could fix them. Elder Root Deep of the Urbans, now one of the senior surviving council members, spoke with the wisdom that comes from facing death. Chancellor, it is time to set aside our pride completely. We must go to the humans not as the Galactic Council making demands, but as people asking for help. Ambassador Keth of the Soros agreed. My colony has 3 days of air left. If the atmospheric processors don't start working again, my people will die. I volunteer to lead the diplomatic mission. Are you sure the humans will even listen to us? Asked Admiral Starwing of the Delari. His underwater cities were slowly flooding, and his people were evacuating to emergency habitats that wouldn't last much longer. Think Deep of the Vex, ever the analyst, provided her assessment. Based on human behavioral patterns, they will listen. Humans have strong empathy responses, especially to suffering they could prevent. The question is whether they will help after listening. Chancellor Zix made the decision that would either save galactic civilization or confirm its doom. Prepare the diplomatic fleet. Every honor we can give. Every symbol of respect we possess, every admission of fault we can make. This is not a negotiation. This is a plea for mercy. The diplomatic fleet that approached human space looked nothing like the invasion force from months earlier. Instead of warships, they sent hospital ships carrying aid supplies. Instead of military officers, they sent doctors, teachers, and relief workers. Instead of weapons, they carried gifts, not valuable trade goods, but personal items that showed respect for human culture. At the fleet's head flew Ambassador Keth's ship, broadcasting a simple message on all frequencies. To the people of humanity, we come seeking help for the suffering. We bring no weapons, make no demands, and offer no threats. We wish only to speak with you as one people to another. When they reached the border of human space, they were met by a single small ship. Elena Vasquez appeared on their communication screen, and Keth was shocked by what he saw. Elena looked older, much older than a year should have made her. Her hair had streaks of gray that hadn't been there before. Her eyes carried a deep sadness that seemed to go all the way to her soul. But when she spoke, her voice was still strong. "Ambassador Keth," she said, "I've been watching the reports. I've seen what's happening to your people, all of your people." Keth swallowed his pride completely. "Ambassador Vasquez, we were wrong. Completely, terribly wrong. We let fear make us cruel, and now billions are suffering because of our mistakes. We're not here to negotiate or make demands. We're here to beg for your help." Elena nodded slowly. "I know why you're here, Ambassador. The question is, what has the Council learned? We've learned that humans weren't the problem. You were the solution to problems we didn't even know we had. We've learned that your expansion wasn't aggression. It was preparation to help us. We've learned that your technology wasn't primitive. It was so advanced we couldn't understand it." Elena's expression didn't change. "And?" Keth knew what she wanted to hear, and it was the hardest truth of all. "We've learned that you were better friends to us than we ever were to you. You helped us for free, protected us without asking for control, and shared your knowledge without demanding payment. And we repaid that friendship by trying to make you into something else." For a long moment, Elena said nothing. Behind her, through her ship's windows, Keith could see human space, clean, well-maintained, thriving. The contrast with the failing Council worlds was obvious and painful. Finally, Elena spoke. "Ambassador, I could have easily prevented all of this suffering with a single word a year ago. I could have told the Council that humanity would submit to their demands and your civilizations would still be functioning. Why didn't you? Because that wouldn't have been honest. It wouldn't have taught anyone anything. You needed to learn what the galaxy looks like without human help. You needed to understand that our aggressive expansion was actually us building the infrastructure you all depended on. You needed to discover that our primitive emotions were what drove us to help others even when they showed us no respect." Elena leaned forward, and Keth could see the pain in her eyes. "Do you know what the hardest part has been for us, Ambassador? It wasn't being insulted or threatened or driven away. It was watching people suffer when we knew we could help them. Then why didn't you help? Because you told us not to. Because you said human interference was dangerous. Because you made it very clear that our help wasn't wanted." Elena's voice carried both sadness and strength. "We respected your decision even when it was killing people we cared about." Keth felt ashamed. Even in exile, humans had been more respectful of Council wishes than the Council had ever been of human wishes. Elena continued. "But there's something you need to understand before we go any further. If humanity returns to galactic society, it won't be as your maintenance crew or your emergency service or your helpful neighbors who fix things for free. It will be as equals. What does that mean? It means full voting rights in whatever replaces the Council. It means equal representation in all decisions. It means no more sacred protocols that put some species above others. It means humans have the same right to expand, explore, and grow as anyone else." Elena's voice grew stronger. "We're not doing this for power, Ambassador. We're doing this because people are dying and humans can't just walk away from that, even when walking away taught necessary lessons." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "But we're also not doing this to go back to the way things were. The old system failed because it was built on the idea that some species were naturally superior to others. The new system has to be built on the idea that all species have value, all cultures have worth, and all people deserve respect." Keth felt hope for the first time in months. Are you saying humanity will help? I'm saying humanity will return to galactic society as partners, not servants. We'll rebuild what we can, save who we can, and restore what we can. But this time, it happens with humans as full equals in whatever comes next. Elena smiled, and for a moment, she looked like the young diplomat who had once believed in galactic friendship. We're not angry, Ambassador Keth. Hurt, yes. Disappointed, definitely. But not angry. Humans understand that people make mistakes when they're afraid. She activated her ship's communication system to broadcast to the entire diplomatic fleet. To all the representatives of the surviving council species, humanity accepts your request for help. But we're not helping you rebuild the old system that failed. We're helping you build something better. Welcome to the Galactic Partnership, where no species is junior, no culture is primitive, and no person is worth less than any other. Let's build a galaxy worthy of all the people who live in it. As Elena's words spread across the galaxy through the few working communication networks, something magical happened. On dying worlds, people looked up at the stars with hope for the first time in a year. In failing space stations, engineers began planning repairs they thought would never be possible. In hospitals where patients had been dying from incurable diseases, doctors started preparing for the return of human medical knowledge. The great human return began immediately. But it wasn't a restoration of the old order. It was the birth of something new. A galactic civilization built on respect instead of hierarchy, cooperation instead of control, and friendship instead of fear. The Council had learned the hardest lesson in the universe, that true strength comes not from the power to control others, but from the wisdom to work with them as equals. And humanity, having proven their point about the value of compassion over conquest, rolled up their sleeves and got back to work building a better galaxy for everyone. This time they would do it as partners.